Alright boys, so today is going to be a quick one. I just want to talk about the Calus mini tool, and I want to talk about some roles that it can get, but I don't want to talk about one specific role, and it's the role that I crafted, and I highly recommend using it if you want to use some Solar 3.0 builds. So in order to be able to craft this weapon, you do need to get 5 red border drops of it, and that can be kind of a drag. There's a couple of upgrades you can get from the Crown of Sorrow that will speed it up, but otherwise you're just going to have to wait and hopefully you get a little lucky. So when it comes to crafting this weapon, your barrel and your magazine, those are totally personal preference. I personally put extended barrel and alloy magazine because I wanted to bump up that range a little bit because it does have pretty low range. I also put a range masterwork on this weapon, and I use alloy magazine because I'm always emptying the clip on an SMG, so I figured this was the best way to get the fastest reload possible. Now when it comes to the perks, here is where things get interesting, and here's where this weapon is actually kind of rare. Disclaimer, I will only be going over PvE roles in this video. So in the first perk column, there's 3 perks that I highly recommend for this weapon: Threat Detector, Grave Robber, which is the perk that I crafted on my Calus mini tool, and the last perk, Unrelenting. Now the reason why this Unrelenting perk is so rare on this weapon is because it's in that first trait column. Most of the time, Unrelenting is in the second trait column, meaning that you can't pair with damage perks like Surrounded or Rampage, something like that. But for the Calus mini tool, it's in the first trait column, meaning that you can pair it with Incandescent or Surrounded, which will give you that extra bump in survivability. Now moving on to the second trait column, there's only 2 perks that I recommend here. The first one being Surrounded, and the second one being Incandescent. So if you want your generic good PvE role on an SMG, definitely go with Threat Detector Surrounded. You're gonna mean in order to proc Threat Detector, you gotta be surrounded by enemies. And in the meantime of that happening, you're going to proc Surrounded because you're going to be surrounded by enemies. And especially with the enhanced version of these 2 perks, Enhanced Threat Detector just buffs the buffs that you get from Threat Detector, and Enhanced Surrounded actually gives you more damage from Surrounded. I think it's like somewhere between 5 to 7% bonus damage for Surrounded. So let's say you have Enhanced Surrounded and Surrounded spec on, you're looking at somewhere between an extra 45 to 47% extra damage. And if you wanted to lean more into the Solo 3.0 aspect of this weapon, you can go Threat Detector and Incandescent. Definitely not a bad perk combination, but there's some other perk combinations that I think would be better for you if you want to lean more into the build crafting part of this weapon. If you want to lean more into the survivability that this weapon can provide, go Unrelenting Incandescent, especially for my Titans out there that can generate sunspots. Because Unrelenting, if you get multi-kills, will start your health regen, and an Incandescent can actually spawn sunspots if you kill those scorched enemies. And Enhanced Incandescent actually makes the scorch effect last longer, and I believe it puts just a little bit more scorch on each enemy. So you're going to see those ignitions proc much more frequently. But the perk combination that I recommend to everybody is Grave Robber and Incandescent, especially when you're using the Solar Fragment Ember of Searing, which states that upon defeating scorched targets, grants melee energy. So you're going to be getting a lot of scorched enemy kills because of Incandescent. You can land a powered melee attack or a regular uncharged melee attack to reload your weapon, and in defeating those other scorched targets is then going to give you more melee energy, so you can get another melee kill to reload it. It's this constant cycle of scorching enemies, killing them, generating melee energy, using that melee energy to reload your gun, then getting more scorched kills, which is going to feed right back into your melee energy. I've been having tons and tons of fun with this weapon using just a pretty generic melee build that I created on my Warlock with the Incinerator Snap, just getting those solar kills, scorching enemies, using the snap, every now and then I'll proc an ignition, get some melee energy in return for defeating those scorched targets and reloading my weapon. It is a lot of fun. And since it's a solar weapon, for this season we have the seasonal mod Rays of Precision, which states that while radiant, solar precision weapon final blows cause the targets to ignite. So you can have scorching, ignitions going on, generating melee energy, snapping, getting the melee code to reload, then scorching more targets. This is a phenomenal weapon, especially in this season with all these solar mods we have in the seasonal artifact. So there you boys have it. Definitely go farm up a Calus mini tool, craft it, craft the Grave Robber Incandescent role or Unrelenting Incandescent. But I personally recommend the Grave Robber Incandescent role. Make a little melee build, and I promise you will not regret it. But if you like this content, please like, subscribe, and share. It truly helps me out a lot. You can also check out my other videos. Links are in the description below. And I hope to see you guys in the next video. Deuces.